Right. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel G. Wilson. I am the host of this. I'm not going to say podcast. 'Cause It's not a goddamn podcast. But like, or is it?
What is a podcast anymore?
Right. Right.
It could be. All you got to do is put it on there, and it's a podcast.
Who knows? Maybe I'll make a cartoon out of it, like that Midnight Gospel thing.
Yes.
I forget what that was. Was that a? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We're really good at tangents, so you got to keep us on task.
Because now I see that on my Netflix queue every so often. I'm like, what the hell is this? Nothing about it is making sense to me. But okay, if it came from a podcast, that makes more sense than anything else.
Wait until you watch it. It's a mind trip. But no. All right. So yeah. Without further ado, today on the Festival Lingua Franca interview series, I will be interviewing the illustrious Wife Patrol. Introduce yourselves, people.
My name is Nicole. I play bass and sing in Wife Patrol.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I play drums and sing in Wife Patrol.
I'm Greg. I play guitar and sing, also in Wife Patrol.
Cool. Pleasure to meet you all, and
Likewise.
And thank you for being on the show.
Our pleasure.
All righty, now let me kick this. Let's kick this off by going on that tangent. Mostly because it's just kind of fun. Like, yeah, this guy, Duncan Trussell, I think is his name.
Yeah, Duncan Trussell. I used to listen to his podcast, The Lavender Hour.
Perfect.
The plot thickens.
Yeah.
So he basically, like, with Pendleton Ward, the guy from Adventure Time, he basically like made this cartoon where like he would adapt bits from his interviews with different people into like these abstract, surreal like cartoon episodes where the dialogue is like of the characters like 90% of the dialogue is basically like bits from the interviews.
From the interview, yeah.
Whoa.
And then a few like additions for like obviously making a storyline, if you can call them a storyline.
So is that what the thing is for the show that's on Netflix now, or is it a totally different thing?
Oh, that's for the show. Like that was a show. He adapted like his old podcast episodes.
Wow. I love this. In theory, I feel like I'd watch this. This is weird, but right now
it looks so cool. Like the look of it is so messed up.
But you know my threshold for weird.
That's
so
true.
Does it look like something that I'd be like, I don't understand what's
Nicole's
happening.
got a low bar for weirdness.
Yeah.
I will say it's a different bar. I will argue it's a different bar.
It's a different bar. I think you'd have interesting dreams after watching it, probably.
I had tickets to see 2001.
Oh my gosh, you will never get over this.
Presented in 75 millimeter, and I couldn't make it. It was wrenching. They tour this around the world, and I couldn't see it. It had come to Indianapolis. Nothing ever comes to Indianapolis, so I had to give it up. I'm like, Nicole, these tickets are yours. I can't make it. Natasha's going, so they went. Nicole's like, I fell asleep. It was stupid.
I didn't say it was stupid. I said I didn't get it. I have a lot of questions. Like, I don't understand. Like, why? How does everyone know this thing is called the monolith? When nowhere in the movie did they say this is the monolith. But everyone's like, the monolith. I'm like, it looked like a big remote control in the sky. And I don't understand. Is there a book I was supposed to read? Did I need to study before this? Like, I don't get it.
I missed the Star Child's Chiron when it was on.
I was so confused.
Star Child's lower third.
Yeah.
I just remember leaving it, and I called my brother on my way home. And I was like, so I just watched 2001 A Space Odyssey. And he just like sits there. And I go, and he goes, you didn't get it, did you? I'm like, I'm so confused. I I didn't even have to actually say it. It was just the silence spoke volumes, and he's just like, she did not get this
I
movie.
mean, nobody knows what the hell's going on their first time through. No one knows what's in that movie. I just thought it was hilarious that your first experience was at an IMAX
70 millimeter.
with
Yeah.
just this
Best possible way.
incoherent nonsense like blared at your face for 3 hours or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I couldn't even appreciate it.
In a stadium.
Like, I don't understand.
A stadium of confusion.
Oh,
Amazing.
God.
But I will say, this show you're talking about, where they've put the podcast into like cartoon or whatever this show is, makes me think of Drunk History, where they have like the
Oh, yeah.
actors have to reenact and like voice right on top
Yeah.
of somebody else telling the story, and I do love that.
Okay,
so.
that's very
Yeah.
similar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I could possibly make it. I could give it a shot. We can Netflix party it and see what happens.
Yeah.
I encourage it. If anything, then just to see some surreal imagery.
Yeah.
Okay. On to my questions. All right.
Great. I love this ramp up.
All right. So, now, I'll basically get started. Get started with a few things. So, full disclosure, I found your band. I forget if by almost accident one day, like about I think a few months ago. I just found, oh, I like the name, the music's dope. Okay, you have a fan.
Sweet. Sounds like us.
Excellent.
So, but I also know like you guys have been around for a few years, but have, I guess, for a few years, but I've only kind of recently started to like. I don't know if it's appropriate, if this is the appropriate wording, but like, in the past few, only kind of ironically during quarantine, I've noticed you guys have been getting a lot more attention. Like I'm curious, like,
Yeah.
what's like as a band, like what's your experience been over the past length of being a band? Like, I don't know, what's changed in the past year? Did you make a deal with the gods to like
The hype gods.
We went down to the crossroads.
Yeah.
did you like, yeah, exactly, did you make a deal where it's like, okay, we'll get you some hype, but like the world has to be under quarantine? It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
We went to the Buzz Oracle, and this is the deal we made. It
We
was
did a
struck.
tarot card reading, and then
Yeah.
I would say one thing, I mean, definitely this quarantine situation has changed a lot of things. 'Cause prior, we mostly only played shows around Indianapolis. We did a few other shows out of state, but not very many. And so I think we were kind of planning with this album this year that it would be an opportunity to open some doors and do some more like touring over the summer. But of course, that didn't end up being a part of the plan. So many things were put on hold and on pause. But the opportunity to do things like live streams and interviews and things opened up a chance to connect with a wider audience than we would have here. So in a way, each time we've only done 2 live stream concerts so far, but it's been a great way to connect with people that we otherwise would not see because we had not been to those places before. So I think that's just really interesting, the way that this whole, whatever we want to call it, of a year has kind of just opened up doors that it's not like they haven't ever been open, but we haven't always been paying attention to them in the same way. Like, it's not like Zoom didn't exist before, 2020, and now that we kind of have the necessity of needing to use these things to communicate and reach out. It's been really interesting to take those opportunities to connect with more people.
Totally. Yeah. And I would say too, part of the reason that, we've been playing together for as many years as we have, but we're like just now ramping up to, a debut LP, is in large part, like, speaking for myself, is just inexperience. I had not even picked up drumsticks really until we had formed as a band. And so though we've been playing together for 5 years, like, that's been a learning curve of me even trying to learn an instrument. Like, this is my first band that I've ever been in. I've never, I never even did karaoke before this band. So, just very tiny baby steps into being part of kind of the rock scene as a performer, though I've been a fan for a long time. I've,
and a music
done
journalist.
music writing, music photography for a long time, but just never participated as a performer previously. And so I think that's kind of part of it too, is us just like taking our time, coalescing as a band, learning to write songs together, and me like learning an instrument and having everyone be patient with me as I was, ramping up like my understanding of the drums, which is like still pretty nascent.
Also, I must say, I love karaoke. And
Yes.
we have karaoke to
Tangent
I can't even
alert.
speak.
Tangent alert.
Karaoke together a number of times. And it's always really, really fun.
It's joyous.
Do you have a go-to, Nicole? I forget.
It's hard because it depends on the night. It depends on the mood.
Yeah.
It depends on what's happening. I would say songs that I usually will throw out there. We Belong Together by Mariah Carey.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a good crowd pleaser. Rumor Has It by Adele is another one that I do enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
More recently, Betty Davis Eyes.
Okay.
I know, Natasha, it's not your, but it's just a fun song.
I'm
Natasha-
a fan when you sing it, Nicole.
Natasha is the lone non-fan of Betty Davis Eyes. That is that song
She
is,
got Betty Davis Eyes.
that's my
See,
birth
there you
song.
go.
That's the song from the year of my birth. So
Yeah.
it's
It's a
like
good
my sign.
jam.
It's like my
Yeah.
star sign.
Yeah.
It's a surprise one.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do love to pull out the surprises though. One time I went to this sort of hole in the wall karaoke bar, and it was kind of like a country vibe. It was definitely like all much older white folks.
Some good old boys were in the house that night.
And I walked in because my friend's like, "This place is cool," and I walked in. I'm like,
So when you say cool,
right? I was like, I don't know about this. And I heard this woman as I got up. She's like, because I told you I have to fill out the room. She's like, I can't wait to hear what this kid's gonna rap. And so I was like, okay, now we got expectations. So I went up and I did Fist City by Loretta Lynn. Because I was like, I'm gonna show y'all I know country music.
Oh, yeah.
And it ended up being a really good time. So
Of course.
you got to read the room.
Yeah.
That's my tip to any aspiring karaokeers out there. Or even if you just want to sing anytime, you just read the room.
Yeah.
sometimes karaoke though is about taking a room hostage for your own needs. That's my style.
As long as it's not Creep by Radiohead.
I don't care what room it
I'm
is.
good.
It's time for Wind of Change by Scorpions.
But anyway, back to the present. Yeah, I mean, we've been playing together since fall of 2015, and we've been friends about as long as we've been a band, if not a little bit longer. We met a little before, but we've grown a lot as friends, as people who play together in a band, learning how to write together, how to perform together. And so it's just really exciting to be having this album come out now and having the opportunity to connect with so many people at a time when we're really, we've been playing for 5 years now. We've put out a couple of EPs and we've played live shows, and I just feel like it's a nice culmination of where we've journeyed together.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm honestly stoked. I'm honestly stoked to see where you journey next. Hopefully it's, into Canada when quarantine's over.
Well, I know it's better there, but how much better is it there? Can you go places?
Help us understand.
What's it like to live in a place where?
What's it like out there?
What's it like not to be scared all the time?
What's pandemic look like in Canada?
Well, God, I'm gonna be dating this interview heavily.
Oh, that's right. If we don't want to, that's fine. But just for our own edification.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah. So Canada is pretty much every country in the world is handling this pandemic better than the States is. Like,
Not an unfair assessment.
like, like I'm Jamaican Canadian. Like, yeah, I talk the way I do, but like I lived in Jamaica. Like, I pay attention to the news there. They're handling it far better than
Hmm.
the States is, and and their healthcare system is not as advanced. That's not an indictment. It's not bad. It's just not technologically as advanced, and they're
Yeah.
handling it
Right.
better.
It tends to help if you don't have a leader of a nation actively an antagonist to the health of your nation.
Yeah.
That would probably be a benefit.
Yes.
Pretty much. So I mean, you have my sympathy. We are, you know, the cases in Canada are, it ranges because we have a much smaller population. We have better leadership, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
that in terms of this, though, some people here, you know, are gonna will have complaints as in everywhere because there's no
Yeah.
perfect way to handle it, but still, so small population, better handling, better healthcare system on top of that.
Yeah.
So you know, we've lessened restrictions in most areas of the country because it's just we're far more isolated. Like where I am, there's a lot more restrictions and kind of cases. It's still like not that many comparatively, but because like you have a higher population, we're around near Toronto.
Yeah.
But overall, like, you know, people can still go places. Like there's cities in Canada that can have like actual shows. Cities in regions that can have actual
Remember that?
shows,
Wow.
right?
God.
And you know, you can move around and there's a lot of stuff. Like there's less paranoia. Like we're still all aware of, you know, the pandemic and it's still a thing. People need to wear masks and there's still restrictions, but it's less. And depending on where you live, like if I lived in Sudbury, like which is a town that's like 4 hours north of me,
Mhm.
which is basically bumfuck. Actually, no, it's not bumfuck nowhere. Thunder Bay is bumfuck nowhere, but
Says so on the sign.
yes, or Sault Ste. Marie, but like Sudbury's like basically when you start getting into bumfuck nowhere in Ontario, and
Mhm.
if I lived there, I could like go and attend like a concert with like 50 people or more.
Mhm.
Wow.
That sounds terrifying to me.
Mhm.
That's the state that we're in. Is
Yeah.
that we're like, oh my gosh, a show with 50 people? That's terrifying.
Mhm, mhm.
What do you do?
Right?
It's scary.
Yeah.
We tried opening up and then closed, and then they tried opening up again and then closed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's yeah.
But then school started and off you go, little kids.
Right.
Yeah,
Fend for yourselves. Good luck.
we've even been debating like opening schools here, and like we're having like because like I have nephews, and like
Mhm.
they had the option of doing distance learning, thankfully. So like even here when we're opening schools, like, you know, there's still the thing of like, you know, seeing how it goes instead of just you not forcing everybody because I don't know. I don't know. I guess you know the government doesn't want to force kids to, you know,
Yeah.
get stuff.
Would
But
seem to be
Mhm,
ideal.
mhm,
Would seem to
mhm.
be the way you'd want to go about it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Choice.
yeah, but yeah. So it's, you know, it's not perfect. It's not perfect over here, but like yeah, pretty much every country is handling it better.
What you're saying is it's not perfect there, but we're doing better than y'all are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah.
We will not debate that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We would lose.
So, but I'm hoping, you know, everyone survives long enough because, you know, like I said, I gotta see you guys play up here or I come down there. Actually, no.
Yeah.
That's right. We
that'd
will
be
run
awesome.
away to Canada.
I do
And
need to
live
update
in-
my passport.
Live
Yeah.
in whatever room it is we're looking at. Your I don't know what this is. Is this a kitchen, a bedroom?
It's
We're
my
moving in.
It's my basement.
Okay. Oh, and you
Ooh,
got
we love-
basements up there?
See,
Okay.
we love
see?
basements.
We're in the
Yeah.
basement too.
We're a basement
Perfect.
band.
Yes.
Yep. We'll just do a basement transfer and it'll be good.
Yes.
Please take us in.
Oh God.
Can I bring my drum kit?
I have a drum kit in here, actually.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
we got a
yeah,
back
I
line
don't
there.
think
We
of
don't even
that.
need
I don't even have to take my drums. I'll bring breakables.
Oh,
Can we
God.
borrow your amp?
Oh,
I know,
God.
now it does sound like a show.
Amazing.
Oh, God. But on a serious note, yeah. Okay, back from this tangent. God. We're gonna watch this in like 5 years. It's like, oh yeah, that's when the world was ending. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So okay. That's pretty cool. It's like 5 years as a band is five in 5 years as a band. That's 5 years as a band. Like that's I think I call that like the golden march. 'Cause- Mostly because like my band has been around for 5 years.
Yeah.
Hey.
Like some things start to make more sense at 5 years. Like,
Right?
Right.
a lot of things are easier than they were. But it's like you don't really think about it as much. When you stop and think about it, it's like, oh yeah, there are things that are way easier to communicate and ways to just work together that even in like the first or second year just would not have happened. So
Right. Totally.
Well,
we know
and
so
even
much more about each other now.
even doing it new like ways of writing where because of the circumstances where we can't really, I mean, you see what it looks like when we get together. It looks like a surgery theater or something. We have to sort of think of different ways to collaborate. And, Nicole's got recording equipment now and ways to kind of multi-track and demo. And we have that here so we can kind of trade, which is something we didn't do before. And now that's like, we've been together long enough that we can kind of write long distance that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Quote unquote long distance.
Yes. The handful of blocks.
I know we could like lean out of each other's windows and shout things to us. You probably hear, but we still can't like go to dinner together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God.
Sorry to keep bringing it back to that. That's every day. We can't, there's nothing else
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah.
Fair.
That's why this album is, we've been so heavily promoting. It's just something else to focus on.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Give us some good news.
Yeah.
Feel good about something.
Yeah.
Well, I'm also very happy about because I have something to listen to on repeat.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Oh.
Thank you for putting out some cool music. Speaking of music, now one question I have. Now this is particularly pertaining to mostly to the song "How to Lose." Now that was the song. That was like the standout song when I like checked out you guys.
Oh, cool.
And like, and I'm not gonna lie, like that was the song you recorded, like the first song you recorded, "Distance," right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have to say, I was like, how did you recorded this distance? Like, what the fuck? The vocals,
Yeah.
the vocals, just the kind of like sparseness of the arrangement in a way that is very much that it reminded me so much of like a very like 90s music to a degree. And
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for anything like for any kind of like 90s garage, indie rock, etc. But
That is
Ditto.
like straight up our alley.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I love 90s grunge. I mean, there were so many great genres of music in the 90s. I can't hang my hat only on grunge, but I think pop in the 90s was so interesting where so many genres kind of like had a heyday moment. Like, and so
No, it's true. Yeah.
I remember somebody was trying to make a joke involving like Hootie and the Blowfish one. They were like, 1994 was the best year for Hootie and the Blowfish. Like, that was the only year for Hootie and the Blowfish. But it was like, there was a period in a time, there were just so many things that made such a splash then. So it's cool that it gave you that vibe, because it's definitely I know it's definitely something I'm super into. So
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, the like distance recording process was really interesting. And I bet you would never guess, but Nicole's vocals were done entirely. Okay. I hope I'm saying this right. All on your iPhone. Is that right?
yes, all of them are on my iPhone. Actually, the The vocals and the bass were
Yeah.
recorded on my iPhone.
That's
Yeah.
what's crazy is
Yeah.
the bass sound on that song is from a stupid phone.
Hey, it's a very important phone. Gets a lot of things done.
Well, it just
Yeah.
goes to show, like,
But yeah, you can do a lot with
yeah,
little
Yeah.
when you get creative and look for the tools.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there was an app I found called Spire that I used at the time for that, and I liked it because it allowed you so we had done a project that was just we did a covers project that we did distance as well. So that was the first time we did that together. And I want to say, like, it was a long time, but literally all of those happened in like a month. So it
seems
was
like a lifetime
right, it's
ago.
like 1 week we worked on this one song and then we put it out. The next week we work on the other song and put it out. But the first one we did for that, I had just used like the regular voice memo app. And it was fine, it got it done. But what I liked about Spire was I was able to actually like do a sound check before recording things and kind of get levels. And that was really helpful for, I had a very sparse situation. Like that's all the equipment that I had in terms of being able to record. So it allowed me to just kind of get a little bit more confident in what the sound was going to be in the end. So I made a blanket fort in my living room with a big
This
huge,
has nothing to do with the recording. This was just some fun she was having.
big huge comforter. And well, it did though, because prior when I had recorded, I didn't pay much attention to the noise around me, like when the air vents and things would go off.
Oh yeah.
So building this little like tent fort kind of allowed me to isolate that sound a little bit better. So I did that for the vocals. I recorded them in this blanket fort onto the phone, sent them over, and then just had set the phone up next to my bass amp, recorded all the bass parts to that, and sent those over here.
Yes, over here.
Very, very, very cool. That I love that. I'm like, screw conventional recording equipment and use your phones. Because we have the technology, right? Like
You have it.
Yeah.
Things
And
have gotten so advanced.
As incredible as as bowled over as I was by like, man, this sounds good. This is a bass on a phone. This is incredible. But I mean, it is the most sophisticated technology like that you can imagine. Just a little square that contains the entire galaxy of the world's information. Like, it's not that far-fetched that it could also be a microphone. Like it, so it works out. And everyone's got it in their pockets. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool to live in a time where we have the tools to be able to make this work. I mean, even as you think of the history of like shared and recorded music, so much of it was purely local because that's as far as it could go. And then there were the limitations of having to be able to afford studio time and all of those things. And especially for people who are starting out, to be able to really record something and set yourself up to start without having to, take on all of those heavy expenses or even have to carry that burden of feeling like you need to be some sort of professional or some sort of status to be able to do something. Like it really helps kind of level that playing field that you could start with a voice memo on your phone and use some equipment to make that work, or just put that out and have a first option of something to share with people.
Agreed. Now, here's my next question, and Nicole, this is specifically for you. I'm curious now. What has your experience been? As a non-white person in the rock in like rock and punk circles, and over the years, like what has that experience been for you? Particularly like I guess in Indianapolis, for example, as well. What has that experience been for you? I'm curious.
I mean, I'd say it's been interesting. There are, I actually studied music business in school and had like really big aspirations to work in the music industry. And for a lot of, most of my college career and after that, I worked in at least the music community where I lived at the time in Bloomington, Indiana. And I was involved in community radio. I was involved in putting on shows. I was involved in managing bands. But there was still this sense, especially as someone who would like go to shows all the time, where, you know, people would sometimes sort of ask you to sort of prove your existence in a place. You know, what are you doing here? Why do you listen to this? I remember I worked for a large theater in the town, and John Hyatt, a songwriter, performed there. And this couple I was sitting next to, because I actually went to the show, and they were like, "Oh, what are you doing here? You know, what brings you out?" And I'm like, "The same, like, why would I be here if
John
I didn't
Hyatt?
want to hear the music? Like, who just shows up to a concert that like they didn't have a vested interest in? You know, like it's just, obviously I'm here because I like the music and I wanted to come to the concert just like you did." And so those kinds of things definitely happened, and still happen to this day. So, you know, even working in bars when I would promote shows, you know, people would be surprised that I was the one who was managing the night, and the one that people had to come to get paid at the end of the night, and, you know, calling me honey and darling and all these sorts of things. I'm like, you wouldn't say that if I was male. So there's kind of the double situation here. I would get comments for being Black and comments for being a woman. And so those are definitely things that have been frustrating. At the same time, I think it's been a great way to, you know, one of the things I really appreciate about this band is that we have conversations about that, because it was interesting after some of our shows, we were noticing that there were things that would happen when Greg was not here. If like Greg went and put his guitar away elsewhere, there were things that people might say to myself or Natasha that they would not say in front of him. And after the show, would be like, "Oh, I can't believe that some person said this." And he's like, "I didn't hear that."
Yeah.
And in other situations, there would be things that people would say to me when both of them were gone, if they were elsewhere in the venue, that they would not say if somebody had been next to me. But after the show, I remember some guy was really drunk, and he's like, "You know, you were really good." I'm like, "Okay, thanks." And he's like, "So like, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know, I just live in the same community.
Like
I
the
live,
rest of the band.
we play here in Indianapolis. We're from Indianapolis, you know." He's like, "Yeah, but you know," and I know you know where this is going. What do you think he asked me next?
I have a few ideas. Have a few ideas, but like this could go a few different places.
All right.
A few different places. Like
The first question is, "Where are you from?" And I say, "Indianapolis." That's not a good enough answer for him. What's his next question about where I'm from?
he didn't ask if you're from Africa, did he?
Oh, no. He just gets more specific of where are you really from? Because it can't be, it can't just be Indianapolis. I can't be from here. Like, no, there's no way I could be from here. Which, I mean, I'm not originally. I grew up in a military family. I lived in a lot of places. But this sense of, you know, he
Germany.
he was definitely, eventually I did, but he was definitely expecting that exoticism of like, "Oh, she must be from Africa or from the islands or from like somewhere foreign because she doesn't belong here." You know, they don't think they're saying all that, but that's what's baked into those questions. And I just kind of kept evading it and giving him the answer he did not want. And could see where this is going. Eventually I just said, "Well, actually I was born in Germany," which is the truth. And he was like, "Oh," you know, but I finally got to that to kind of just really going at it. And I just said, "You know, why are you asking me that?" "Oh, you know, I'm just asking questions." So that's not really a normal question that you would ask somebody. I mean, I already gave you an answer and you're continuing to press me on this. What is it that you're looking for and why is that important to you? Like, we don't even know each other. You haven't even asked me what my name is. Like, we don't know anything about each other, but you feel this need to verify me in some way.
Yeah.
And it's just so frustrating when that happens. Because honestly, in most countries, to be white, you do not have to justify that you are a such and such American or this or that. Like, you just get to be American. Like, that's just all you get to, and nobody questions anything. You may later say that your family is Greek or, you know, something like that, but that you don't have that extra piece of like having to be African American or Chinese American or, you know, any of these extra things to sort of, in a way, just take you a step away from just being who you are. Like I would say I've lived in this country my whole life, but we've already gone through that. But essentially, I mean, we moved away from Germany when I was like barely a year old. So I've lived in America for all of my conscious life. My parents are both, born and raised in this country. It's been a very, very long time since anyone in my family has lived on any soil other than the United States of America. So it's frustrating when things like that happen and people try to really verify your existence in a space or ask you to prove that you listen to this music so you belong here, when they probably never had to pass such a test just to be given the respect of being a part of the scene. I will say over the years, I've grown a more thick skin about it, and I'm willing to fight back when people ask questions that I feel are inappropriate, and I will tell them as such and say, I'm not okay with you saying that to me. It's not okay for you to say that, or I'll just say what you said is racist and I'm going to tell you why. And I know that not everybody has the safety to do that depending on the situation that they're in. But I hope that we can have more conversations about this kind of stuff and start really looking out for each other. That's kind of what I had alluded to with the conversations we've had as a band, of learning, okay, so this happened. And like, now we look for those things and look for opportunities to step in for each other and say, like, oh, I see that so-and-so is talking to them for a long time. It looks like they don't really want to have that conversation. Let's jump in and say, hey, I need you to write out this, interject when those things happen, and finding ways to really learn about each other's experiences and advocate for each other so that we can be building the experience we want and the scene we want, and really standing for the equality that we want to see.
Agreed. I agreed. That's one of the reasons why, like, I host Lingua Franca. I wish more people thought like that.
How is Toronto that way as a scene?
Well, Toronto is one of the most racially diverse cities on earth, which is true, but it's still like a very white dominated like scene if you're not like involved in like, rap or R&B, or like regular, like if you're not in something that, like, in this instance where you're expected to be ethnic or black, then it's generally white dominated. So the common thing of like shows where it's majority like all white bands, usually all white male bands playing sets, and not a lot of representation. Things have been changing, particularly especially in the years I've been involved. More diverse bands are starting to kind of come to the forefront. Again, like, Lingua Franca exists as part of that, or it's just like, one day, like a few days of the year, where like you have an entire lineup where every band has a non-white person in it, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often here either.
No, yeah, here too.
Yeah. So, things have been changing. I've rarely gotten the "Where are you from?" comment. I know, like, my friends have. Like my bandmate Matt, for example, he's Croatian, but like he's racially ambiguous.
Yeah.
So like, I've had to deal, ironically, right? I've had to be the one where, like, yeah, Matt's he's not he's like that question's not gonna fly. Like, for him, and the white guy, I've usually had to be the one who's like, yeah, no, like, once we had a bass player who was like from the same, whose family was like, was ethnic, from the same kind of ethnic region of Croatia, and like he and my drummer got mistaken for brothers. Like, they still get mistaken to this day, though that member has not been in this band for 3 years at this point.
Wow.
People still mix them up, and I'm just like, this is surreal. What that
Right?
Wow.
It is amazing. I had a job where one of my bosses was Black, and people would repeatedly ask if he was my father. And I'm just like, someone one night just kind of kept going at it, was like, "Oh, are you sure?" I'm like, am I sure who my father is? You know, like, am I sure? I'm positive, you know, and it's not him. Like, but you look so much like we don't. And I finally just broke it down for this man because another guy came and tried to apologize for him, be like, "Oh, don't mind him." And I said, "You know what? No, that's not appropriate." And I just said, "How many times do you go into a venue where all the staff or most of the staff is white?" He's like, "All the time." I go, "How many times do you ask them if they're related?" And he goes, "I've never done that before." I go, "Exactly. Like, you don't make that assumption. It's okay to also not make that assumption here." You know, like, and so, yeah.
Yeah, and then get combative about it.
Right.
Like,
As
not
if
just
I'm-
make the assumption,
right.
but then be like, I'm gonna gaslight you.
Obviously, you're wrong about this.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just so frustrating.
I've never heard that story before, I don't think, Nicole. That's wild.
People pick
Frustrating.
some strange hills to stand on, and
Yeah.
it's just like, just sit down and be wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah.
It can be a great learning experience to just be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. I do have one story. I was hosting a show, and it was at this venue that's kind of doubles as kind of like a hostel upstairs. The upstairs is kind of like a hostel. So it was a cool show, but I was just not having like the best night in the world. But you know, I'm still civil. I'm a professional. I'm putting it on. This dude comes up to me and is like, "You look like Chance the Rapper."
God damn it.
And I was like, "Hey," so like, I guess he was just trying to have a conversation. Okay, fine. Don't.
That's his opening salvo.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I just was like, I'm not having this. This is the wrong night. I just told him, "It really? Oh, all black people look the same to you, huh?" and he was just trying to apologize and defend himself. It's like, no, don't tell me that.
Yeah. It's not cool. It's not appropriate. I've gotten when I have my long braids, then it's either Brandy or Whoopi Goldberg. And I'm like, first of all, I have eyebrows, people. I have visible eyebrows. No, I do not look like Whoopi Goldberg.
Nobody else looks like Whoopi Goldberg.
It's not. It's just not.
Oh my god.
And I also just don't need you to tell me what I look like. Like, I look like me,
Yeah.
and I'm quite fine with that. Don't need any comparisons.
Well, it just reiterates how seldom like rock spaces are integrated. Like just white people, we don't even know how to behave at a show that is integrated in the year 2020. You know, like it's so depressing.
Mhm.
I would say my favorite is one of the more recent shows we played, which still sounds like a very long time ago because
So
we
long
haven't
ago.
played a show
Yeah.
together since like January in public.
Mhm.
A woman actually came to our show. Okay, so
Oh, here it goes.
What is this? I don't know.
okay.
You know it.
I can't even handle myself right
Just
now.
wait.
One of my other friends who was black was at the show. So there were 2 black women in this space. We were the only band with a black person on the lineup. Person was me. This woman comes up to us and is like, "Oh, you know, you're going to totally love the last band, especially if you love girl bands. They're like really good. You should check them out. Like, they're a really great band. I think you're going to love them." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. I mean, I like bands. It doesn't need to be a girl band because I include girls in bands. Like, doesn't need the extra piece for bands." And so, you know, that's cool. And this woman just keeps going on. She's clearly tipsy, but she clearly has no idea that I am the person in that band. Like, it does not occur to her. So she continues having this conversation. I'm like, "Thanks. I mean, that's cool. I'll check them out." And she walks away. Does not realize until I get on stage that I am the person in that band that I'm really gonna love if I love girl bands. Again, there was only one band the entire night with a Black person in it. There were only 2 Black women in the entire venue.
I was worried. For a second, I was worried you were going to say she came up to you after our set and was like, so what did you think?
She actually didn't really like it. I saw her dancing, which was cool. But you saw I loved just seeing the look on her face. Like I looked out and I saw her like have this moment in the audience going like, it's her! I'm like, yes!
It me.
And it's like, I mean, it was such a just hilarious experience. But at the same time, I didn't want to be like, by the way, I was just like, I'm just going to ride this one out. I don't even want to like correct her. I'm just going to ride it out. Like maybe she'll figure it out. But so I'm like, just keep going. We'll just have the big reveal.
You were a very good listener.
Oh god.
On the plus side, I mean, I'm glad that clearly this woman has never seen our band before. But she had really great things to say about it. Like she was hyping us up.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway is that, you know, we must be pretty good if a stranger's willing to hype up a band that she doesn't know
To our
the
faces.
person is in. I'm gonna take it as a win.
Yeah.
I think it is a big one. That's never happened to me before. I'm waiting for that to happen though. Oh god, that's funny. Oh. But yeah, yeah. It's kind of one of those things that I hope like as time goes on, like more of us start like being more prominent in I guess the collective scene, as it were, you know, and whatnot, that we start that stops happening. But like all I can do is just remember what the singer from Algiers, the song "Can the Sub Bass Speak," and I just remember that song, and I'm just like, yeah, that's good. That the rage in that song's gonna be me in 20 years.
Yeah, it can be so frustrating. But at the same time, I think it's important that, you know, it's easy to be really frustrated about everything all the time. But to find ways to create that space that we want to see, I think is super important. And, you know, I know one thing that we do as a band is when we do have shows, if there's extra space on the lineup, we try to suggest bands that we want to be playing with. We suggest bands that, you know, have a diverse makeup. We suggest bands that maybe haven't gotten as many opportunities to play. And just trying to keep that door open for other people and create that space for other people. Because I guess, I mean, what I've realized is honestly, most people are not going to be looking out for me. You know, like they're just not. I don't trust that they will, and I don't expect them to. I wish they did. It would be great, but like we wouldn't be living in this situation we are right now where people are like, oh my gosh, racism exists and I can do something about it. Yeah. If this didn't, you know, if this wasn't a problem, like that's 2020. It's COVID and people thinking that racism is, so someone actually told me like, I just feel like it's getting so much worse. And I just said, you know, please tell me what would be a better, more preferable racism for you. Like what would be a better version?
Diet racism.
Like what would be an acceptable level of racism for you? Because this was a white person who said this. Like, well, it's been going on this whole time, but now you're like, it's just getting so much worse and we got to do something. I'm like, you had to do something. We've had to do something. It's like, do something.
I think they mean they're not able to ignore it as easily as they were before.
Yeah. Yep.
Still should not have been, because I can tell you, we've never been able to ignore it.
Right.
Like we've never been able to ignore it, not a day. And so that's what, you know, I think it's important to I just can't rely on people to look out for me as a woman, as a Black woman. And so many times I have had to create that space for myself or gather with other Black women, other women, and create spaces And so, you know, we have that power in us to take that frustration and find something to do with it. I would hope that we can find ways that build community, because it's easy to be angry and mad, and those are valid feelings to have. But there can also be a way to take that anger and just like build what we want, and even like use that as your act of defiance. You know, the system is built for us to look for sameness and the status quo.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we can be the people who make that change and say, you know what, I'm not going to accept this and I want to see a different world. So I'm going to start only playing shows with these bands whenever I play together. I'm going to start only playing at the venues that I see representing me, or I'm going to start the venue that I want to see representing me. You know, we have the opportunity to try to make that happen. And if you don't have the resources now, you can start building those resources so that one day that can be, you know, the dream or the goal, or whatever organization you can partner with to make that happen, or whatever grant you can apply for to make that happen. There's so much chance to take that energy and build something.
Yeah, totally. And I would just add to that too, Nicole, like in addition to the conversations that, you know, we're having as a band and the way that we're being proactive about trying to shape the scene that we want to see, I think it's really important as well for, you know, someone like myself, you know, a woman, a white woman, to be willing to engage in some of those uncomfortable conversations as well. And, you know, we're never having the conversations alone. We're doing it as a collective. But, you know, we have been in some uncomfortable conversations where, you know, we've said when we're added to a bill, like, hey, look, this doesn't feel great because Nicole and I are the only women on the bill. Nicole is the only person of color, only Black person on the bill. And like, we're just not stoked about this. And, you know, we would like to see this lineup diversified and, you know, to be more inclusive. And, you know, typically like the question that comes back is like, oh, well, who should we get? Which, like, on one hand, it's nice that people want our opinion, but at the same time, it's frustrating that people like need that guidance, because, you know, there are so many great bands with women and with people of color. Like, they're here, they're playing. And so I think something that has been challenging is just willing to be confrontational in a way that, like, I know that after having some of those conversations, people probably see me as like difficult, or like they don't look forward to having conversations. And, you know, Nicole was part of a panel actually with a person who we did have this kind of conversation with, and who admitted, like, unprompted on the panel, and we were all kind of surprised, Greg and I were in the audience, when the person said, like, oh, I had this conversation, I was like taken aback and defensive, and like I ended up changing my mind. And, you know, it didn't feel like great at first during the defensive part, but, you know, being able to like push someone a little bit in a direction that they would not have initially gone on their own is really gratifying. And I think that, you know, it is important to do and be willing to get out of our comfort zones in a way to help prompt that change, because otherwise, like, you know, we're just like pacing around in our rehearsal space, like so frustrated and like, what can we do? And it's a lot of pent up energy. But as Nicole suggested, like, you've got to find a way to channel it either within, you know, a situation that already exists that you can help to influence or change, or, you know, to create your own new spaces, like Nicole did as a co-founder of a music festival here in Indy. So yeah, it's not always exciting to enter into those difficult conversations, but it's really important and something I feel more responsibility about needing to do as, you know, we get to the point where people will hopefully listen to us a little bit more than on like, you know, day one 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Well said. Cool. Your host. You have a music festival. You've been holding out on me.
I was a part of co-founding a music festival in 2019 called Blue Girl Fest with two other Black organizers, one a musician who goes by Kristen Newborn, and a curator and writer, Ariana Beatty. Many know her as Ari Attack. And it ended up being such a great day. It was kind of similar. Like we were all just, I had been having conversations with different women in the community about feeling frustrated about not having space, constantly playing shows with all white, all male lineups, and seeing, you know, local acts, local venues just ignore the opportunity to put women on stage and to put people of color on stage. And if they did, it was like the one group, as if there was just one to pick from. And even opportunities when there was like a headlining touring act that was a band that had like a woman at the forefront, and still having like an all white, all male band open for them. Like that could have been a great local opportunity for a band with women, a band with queer people. Like this could have been the space, and like the inability of people to do that, and promoters kind of coming to me with like, oh, you know the scene, I'm looking to have like some girl bands on my set, can you recommend some? And I'm like, first of all, let's say women. Many of the bands you're referring to are over the age of 18, you know. So, and like, I don't understand why you can fill your venue until someone asks you to put people on stage who are not white and not male. If you consider that outside of your segment of bands, you're not doing your job. Like if we're considered outside or special or niche, you're not doing your job, because we do what they do, you know? And so it was just incredibly frustrating that people were unwilling to see it, unwilling to put in that work, putting that burden on me and other women of color to do. And then having the nerve to be like calling themselves out, like, I planned a diverse event, like making sure they broadcast it, you know, to get those cookie points. You know, it was just incredibly frustrating. And so we planned this festival, and it was great. We had to really put it into context, to see all these groups that were saying like, well, we just don't know any women in bands. We had over 81 submissions for the first festival, you know, and we ended up having about 20 or so acts perform. And I'm just like, how can you possibly tell me that you only know 2 or 3 when we had over 80 submissions? And most of them were based here in Indianapolis, or very close by. You know, like that is just daunting to me. I mean, it just proves that they're just not doing the work. They're not looking for us. We're not included. And that's incredibly frustrating. So it was really great to have this day that was just full of music from, you know, morning till night. We had 3 different venues, just all kinds of music and all kinds of people who came and showed up. And it was just a great day and a great space to just be in existence and show this community that we have so much diversity here. We have so many different types of music, and they don't all have to, you know, you don't have to plan one night that's all singer-songwriters. You can mix it up and it's okay. People will still come and have a good time. In fact, you get more people because you've got all these different fans who will come together and listen. Like, we don't all have to hear the same song for a, you know, 3-hour night, you know, like it's totally okay to go from like, we've played shows with Rob Funkhauser and his music box, and then done what we did, and then seen another act, and they don't sound anything alike, but we all have a great time. Most of us are all friends anyway, you know, like it's not uncommon to be interested in a lot of different types of things. And those are the shows we have the most fun playing, when it's a wide range of genres and styles because we get to really connect with new people. We get to connect more with our community, and be inspired by each other and get to know each other, find more people to look out for. So yeah, unfortunately, it didn't happen this year. um, and but it was really fun to be a part of that first event and really see that come into fruition, because it was kind of one of those things. It's like a pipe dream, like, wouldn't it be great if, and then we just did it. you know um
And you worked fast.
we did. We
You
worked really
really
fast. And it wasn't until after we did the event that we realized that the three of us who planned it, we had only met in person once. Like, we'd only met together in person to talk about this event once. Everything else was done via email or like Skype calls, like really prepared for pandemic times. But
Yeah, wow.
like all of that came together essentially virtually for us. We worked really hard. Some stress involved with all of that work, but again, like we're saying, out of necessity, you get creative with what options you have. You channel into that energy, that frustration, and that desire, and like you can build it. You can do it.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm noticing way too many parallels with this band.
Oh, yeah?
Wow.
with our bands, like, because again, Lingua Franca, like the first
Mhm.
Lingua Franca that I did was kind of similar. Like, I had thought about it. That was I started 2017. I have to keep a memory. And I started around Canadian Thanksgiving. That was just arbitrary. I didn't even realize it was the holiday. That
Hmm.
was not good, but people still showed up. It was one day, and like I booked all the bands, organized the venue, did everything in a month and a half.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
crazy.
That's amazing.
And it came together.
I hope you took a really long sleep after it got done.
Oh yeah. And the next year I started organizing it from like February, and same thing with last year. And this year, well, I literally, the pandemic happened right as I had actually landed like one of the U.S. headliners.
Oh, wow.
But
Damn.
it's all right. It's all right. But no, like, yeah, like what you were saying, like that experience of like booking shows, because like, I just knew a lot of diverse bands that we weren't getting booked my band at the time, because I had just started like heavily like promoting in like heavily promoting, because like I had been a promoter for about a year at that point, but I'd only really started doing it heavily when I did that. And all these bands were getting, I knew all these like bands that weren't getting booked, amazing diverse bands, and instead of just the usual crowd, and I was just like, why aren't these bands getting booked? So I would just book us. I just book my friends, and I would just book these diverse lineups, and then just culminated in that. And seeing a show like that, where like all the bands were diverse, it matched the audience as
I was
well.
gonna say, yeah, would the audience in turn also be like a more diverse audience when you book like that?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I will say, like in Toronto as well, like, you know, one thing I did notice was like while the bands were not as diverse, like obviously, booking diverse bands, you get more diverse crowd, but you still did have contingents of like, I guess, the unafraid to kind of be in the scene, like the few minorities in the scene would go out and always go to shows, but they wouldn't be represented, right?
Mm.
So Lingua Franca was one of the first times I saw like en masse, like I saw it matched, and I saw more people in the crowd. And then the next year it was even better. Uh, and then the third year it was just like last year, which was kind of the culmination of it, where if you ever had like 100 people, like if you ever had like no, if you ever had like about you ever have like a crowded room, and then you have about half of that crowded room like stay at like 1 a.m. because you know how shows go, to
Oh, yeah.
to dance to ska punk at like 1 a.m. like you know you've done something right.
Awesome.
Well,
But-
because I mean, audiences, like diverse audiences, like that's what I noticed about Woo Girl Fest, the festival Nicole helped co-found, was it looked like the city, which is so rare. I mean, the way it didn't look like the city is that everybody was together. Like there wasn't all the white people on the north side of the festival, all the Hispanic and Latin people on the west side of the festival. Like everybody was together watching a show, and it looked like the city actually, like, demographically exists. That's so rare in rock shows.
Mhm.
But it's also it's like it's so powerful to experience and to see when you go to so many shows and don't see yourself. Like part of the reason it took me so long to be in a band was because frankly for the most part I wasn't invited. You know, like I went to the shows, I promoted the bands, I did so much for them, but when it came to like, hey, I am interested and I've played bass since I was like 15. But most people who I went to college with are like, I didn't know you played. And I'm like, I never kept it a secret. Like it was in my room. You know, I even told some people and they were like, oh, okay. Even friends who were in bands, I'm like, if you ever want to jam, like I'd be down. They're like, oh, okay. Like they just didn't take it seriously. And so I just kind of put myself in the position of like, well, I'm just going to be the person on the sideline because I'm not meant to be doing that. And it's so sad to think about how many people that happens to, that you don't see yourself represented. You don't see a pathway for you to be in this place. And there's just there's no path. There's no way to get there. There's no one to show you. And unless you have the resources or the desire to just go for it no matter what, because even when you just say I'm going to go for it, there's still flack. You know, there's still people who find ways to show you don't belong. Like it's a hard road. But how many people just give up because they just assume this is not my world, this is not for me? And it's not even always external. Sometimes it's internal as well. I mean, I would hear other Black people say, oh, you know, my one of my largest collections of CDs came from visiting my aunt and her going, do you want this music? Your cousin left this white people music here. And I open it up and it's got like Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill. There's like a Duran Duran album. There was like Fleetwood Mac Live, which I'm a huge Fleetwood Mac fan. Like there's just, it's a huge just book of CDs. And I was like, I'll take it, you know. But like even from, you know, your families can sometimes be the ones who are telling you who you are supposed to be, what it means to be Black, what it means to be this. And like, you can't listen to that. You can't speak this way. And it's so hard to break through that bubble and really find your identity and own that identity and feel and trust yourself in that identity. That's a lot of work. It's work I'm still doing in myself to find all of those, to feel confident in all of those pieces of myself, because there were definitely times when I did not feel that. And I know so many people have had those experiences too. And it's a way that we end up usually hiding ourselves in order to fit into spaces and becoming so familiar with that like hidden part of yourself that you just don't even explore those options that you would love to have. And that's really heartbreaking to me, how many potential opportunities were kind of squashed at that locked door.
Yeah, just think of how many bands we're missing because of that.
Yeah. Sorry, I got alert. But yes, like again, it's one of those things that like it's hard to really, you know, describe, because like I often say to people that I'm I'm a stubborn, like I'm a stubborn bull when it comes to this stuff. Like I just didn't care and gunned it. 1 second. I just gunned it. So like yeah, I just gun it. So like I just didn't care. I just didn't care. And like usually when I came into this expecting that type of flack. Like I've always been odd. Like, I lived in Jamaica, for example. I never, like, I can speak patois. I can speak patois. I may know how to back chat people and all that type of thing. But I don't normally talk like that. And, there's that. I don't have the stereotypical Black way of speaking. I've always
There
liked.
is no Black way of speaking.
Thank you.
The way you're speaking right now is a Black way of speaking. The native tongue that you use when you want to with the people you feel comfortable with is a Black way of speaking.
Thank you. And I also, even my own family, like my mom's side of the family, had to do with being called whitewash because, like, my mom is a hippie. My mom's basically a hippie. She's a Black hippie. My uncle had a crush on, like, actually had a crush on Stevie Nicks. He, like, creates Clearwater and all type of bands.
How could you not have a crush on Stevie Nicks?
Yeah. She's literally
Like,
bewitching.
honestly.
Totally.
Oh man, Stevie Nicks.
We're all just lost in thought
We're
of
just all
Stevie
like
Nicks
Stevie.
twirling on stage in her black garments.
Yeah.
Back to focus. Back to focus. Back to focus. Okay. So, when discussing like, these bands, like, even as a kid, like, I remember one guy told me, like, yeah, Black people don't surfboard. And I was just like, you're an idiot. I was just like, what? Why would you say that? I was just, I'm 9. Why are you telling me this?
Right.
Oh,
Why are
Oh
you
my
cutting
God.
off my world so early?
Mhm.
But no, like, like, I just kind of predicted this would happen. But, like, I have had to deal with times of, like, maybe I'd probably be more successful if I bleached my skin or had like a white person kind of as the front person of as a front person, like the urge to have, like, a straight white guy like front my band like, is strong sometimes. It never happens and will never happen, but it's just, it's just like, it's just that instinct of, like, that realization, like, this would be so much easier if I just didn't have to, if that'd be so much easier, but, like, screw it.
and that's even what you're talking about. The color coding of the interest just doesn't even happen. When I was a kid, no one told me what music to listen to, what sports to get into, what TV to watch. It was
Right.
all available.
Everything was accessible to you.
Yeah.
I will say, on the topic of, like, finding more of that confidence, there was a book I read by a Canadian author
Oh yeah.
named Lena Dawes. She wrote a book called What Are You Doing Here? And it was specifically about her experience as a Black woman in the Canadian hardcore music scene. And I just remember getting it and just being like, yes, this is what I've felt and experienced. I think the opening to the book was by the lead singer from, gosh, what was the band?
Skunk and Nancy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it was such a great, like, representation matters moment where I got to really, like, feel that sense of, like, even though I felt very alone in my experience, I was not alone in my experience. Other people have been in these shoes just like I have, and we're all, like, fighting this. And that gives me so much courage and, like, empowerment to know that, even though when I was, a teenager being the only one, there was somebody else out there who was also the only one. And, like, hopefully we all grew up to fight for it. It's exciting to talk to you and see all the things that you're doing and feel that same sense of kindred spirit of, like, you know what, we saw it, we faced it. Sometimes it sucked, but man, we're just gonna freaking do it. And we might not have a model and we might not have an example to look at, but we're just gonna build it anyway. And that's what that's what we need to see. That's what we hope will bring about change is the people who are gonna Just get out there and freaking do it. We don't care. You might not like it. There might not be a door open, but we'll just build our own door then. Like, we'll just build something else.
Yeah.
Well said. But that's the only way we're ever gonna do it, because like, you know, the history of like particularly Black people in like the punk rock genre, no matter where we are, that's basically it, right? It's like you look up a band like National Wake in South Africa, and they were getting attacked and like censored by the apartheid government in like the 70s, and they still kept playing shows.
Whoa. Say that band name one more time. I've not heard that, I don't think.
National Wake.
National Wake. Okay.
Greg is going to know everything about this band by tomorrow.
I'm a very sudden obsessive when it comes to music.
I recommend it. They're like one of my favorite like punk bands and bands in general.
Sweet.
So like, and there's a lot of like stuff to kind of and there's a lot of like stuff to kind of research with them. I'm writing an academic paper mentioning them, but like not getting into that tangent. But no, like like, you know, that's pretty much all of our history. Like we've always done that. Like, you know, eventually the pendulum swings in our favor. I mean, in the case of the proto-punk band Def, it took them decades to get recognized, but it still happened.
Yeah. That band is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible to think how prescient and awesome their debut would have been if it had been promoted like the Stooges or the MC5, who were like contemporaries, and they were still playing music that was still like half a dozen years ahead of its time in Detroit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like again, you just think of that old cliche, like not many people heard the Velvet Underground or went to see the Ramones, but everybody who did started a band. Like, think of how many bands we missed because Death didn't get their due in their time.
Man, there could have been so many more Black punk bands.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We wouldn't be showing up and people being like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You like this kind of music?
Well, no.
You know what punk is?
Well, no. Like, honestly, they might have just put us all as R&B.
Probably, to be
Prince
sure.
is
I mean, that's what happened to Fifi Dobson. They kept being like, pop, R&B. And I'm like, are you listening to this? Are you deaf? Like, how can you not hear what's happening?
a fellow Canadian.
Yes, hell yes. I watched a lot of Degrassi and a lot of Fifi Dobson. Teenager. Like,
Only a matter of time before Degrassi gets mentioned.
oh yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't care what I do. I don't care what anyone says. Degrassi is a Canadian institution and one of the
Yeah.
only examples of Canadian culture that doesn't have us all in igloos.
Right?
that like America, that like a non-Canadians see. So I don't care what anyone says. Degrassi was hype.
I loved Degrassi. I will tell you, I loved Degrassi so much, and I showed this to a friend today because we were talking about old TV shows. I have a storage bin in my house that is full of the entire collection of Degrassi High and Degrassi Junior High on VHS.
Oh my God. Do you even have a VCR?
I do have a VCR. Of course I have a VCR.
For
Is it
Degrassi.
also
A friend was getting rid of them one day, and I was like, I'll take them. So I have like the entire set of like the old school Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. It was a great show.
Junior High?
Exactly. It was a good show. They talked about the real stuff. Like, they talked about things American teen shows just wouldn't bring up. And I'm like, we're dealing with these things.
The
Like,
closest analog,
give me some tips.
the closest analog is Saved by the Bell, and there's
Saved
just
by the Bell was just
nothing like reality on that
No.
TV show.
Mm-mm, no.
there for the laughs. Degrassi goes there. I still remember the first time I saw Drake and was like, oh my gosh, Jimmy can walk? It was like, it's Jimmy Brooks. Look at him trying to be a rapper.
Okay. Actually, yes. I like because of how young I was like watching that. I was like, huh. It's more like looking back. I'm like, huh, that's where Drake came from.
It's Aubrey.
Because I never paid it. Because I would know Degrassi because I started watching Degrassi pretty much when Drake like got big.
Oh wow, yeah.
I was pre-Drake.
Yeah, because I had older cousins who would watch like Degrassi and everything else, right? So like I was aware of who he was. I just was like, huh. And then going back, I'm like, huh. I actually like this character more than I like Drake.
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, Drake, do your thing, but I was a fan of Jimmy Brooks. I'd be curious to see where his acting career would have gone.
Jimmy Brooks was amazing. Did you see that one interview, that one music video he did for did you see that one music video he did for
It's the one where it's the throwback with all his Degrassi cast in it.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm upset. I hate that song. It's stupid, but like the video is hype.
I agree. I was like, I purposely would not watch it because everyone's like, you gotta watch it. It's got Degrassi, and I was like, yeah, but it's Drake. And then they're like, but you gotta watch it. And I finally watched it. I'm like, you know what? I enjoy seeing everybody in the video, but like I could not even tell you what the melody of that song is.
Oh,
Because it just didn't. No, I'm not. I'm a Jimmy Brooks fan. That's what it comes down to. I respect him. Do your thing. I mean, my biggest.
You'll just never reach the heights of Jimmy Brooks.
The only thing that I love of trivia fact about Drake, besides Degrassi, is that he is related to my all-time favorite bass player, who is Larry Graham.
Okay, yeah.
Sly and the Family Stone and Larry Graham Central Station, and equally one of the best bassists ever. But I don't believe they have a like close family relationship.
I didn't know he was related to Larry Graham.
That he is his uncle.
Oh my God.
So, but that's amazing because they have heard me just pour out about how much I love Larry Graham. He's an amazing player. He's an amazing musician. He changed the game. And that's a cool tidbit about Drake. Maybe he should start playing bass.
No. I don't need to see that.
See what you got.
I don't need to see that. Like he's already taken from one of my cultures enough, Jamaican culture. I don't need him to take the instruments away.
All that being said, I mean, I'm not here to bash other musicians. Do your thing, Drake. Do your thing. It's not my thing. Do your thing. I don't want to go down in history as a hater. So, do your thing.
You're an admirer in your own way, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
See? Do your thing.
I'm fine. I'm fine with being known. I'm fine with being somewhat of a hater. Like, I'll just complain. I'm Jamaican. It's what we do. Like, like if you want the truth, ask a Jamaican. They will tell you in full bloody detail. They will tell you about your mama. They'll tell you about your mama's mama, your daddy's daddy, your dad. They will tell you exactly why you suck or why you suck, and they will tell you in bloody detail. But
well, then I'm extra flattered we got on today. Not invited on to be hectored or.
No. I like y'all. I'm not gonna do the drink. But yeah, for people watching, FYI, that is actually a fact. That's one of the only Jamaican stereotypes that's true. We don't all smoke weed and don't all have dreads, as you can plainly see. But yeah, if you test us, you will get a tongue lashing. That's pretty cool. So it's good to know That's good. I'm not gonna lie. I love the fact that you know all these Canadian things. It's like it makes me feel closer.
I mean, I watch a
We're
lot
just
of
practicing for
Hallmark channels, so
Yeah, we're practicing for citizenship.
Oh God.
we want to be model citizens when the time comes.
Yes.
We know that America's policy on refugees hasn't been that great, so we're hoping that when it comes to our time, that like we're top of the list, and they're like, yeah, they're cool. She's got Degrassi.
Oh, God.
Let her in.
Okay, on a serious note again. Now my question, this is for Greg and Natasha. Now, this is something that I'm very curious about because I've had experience. I've only had a few experiences seeing people who have been in similar arrangements, as well as once in my band, but I won't talk about that. What is it like being married in a band? Like I've never, I don't really, I haven't really met many people who are married to their bandmate or their bandmate is their spouse. I never really bandmate spouse. What's that like? I'm curious.
I feel like it doesn't factor in very much for the band. Like,
Yeah, we kind of
Like-
turn it off.
we don't really talk about it that much. I mean, it's not like broadly known, really. I don't suppose.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the one thing that, you know, at least in quarantine has been extremely nice is, you know, cohabitating with your bandmate and being able to continue being creative and of course like staying connected to Nicole virtually as much as we can so we can continue to create. But yeah, I mean, it's great like having a creative partner in such close proximity who can like, you know, help mic my drums when I'm ready to like work on something.
Yeah.
You know.
Logistically, it's convenient
Yes.
for
Yeah.
the band.
Yeah, but I mean, like I said, you know, this is my first band. I don't really know what else to compare it to. Like Nicole and Greg are my only bandmates ever. So
I've been in bands where there were, you know, couples in, you know, other bands. And then obviously I've been in bands where it's just a bunch of emotionally closed off dudes. And so that's been an experience too. But I'd say this is the most like openly communicating band, openly kind of, we're also, you know, just older than I was when I was in bands, you know, in my 20s. So there's a bit of maturity, I guess, where that comes into play. There's not as many arguments. I don't know.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I've only been in bands with married people. I remember when I was in this band and another band, the other band was also had two married couples in it, and I was just like, I'm like the ultimate third wheel, like single black bassist for hire. I only join bands with married people. I will say though, something I know I learned early on and that we had to kind of communicate was, particularly when you're in a band with people who live with each other and can talk and communicate, is like it's important to express like the importance of the communication between all of you.
Yeah.
Because it can be really easy to like have someone right there make a decision and be like, okay, but it's like we all need to still be able to talk about things and make a decision together, because it can be really easy for us to like unintentionally leave each other out if we think we've like, sometimes I have to make sure that I send something in the chat to both Greg and Natasha and not just Natasha or
Yeah, I
not
was
just
gonna
Greg.
say, yeah,
And- yeah,
depending on
vice
the-
versa.
Depending on the situation, like it's easy, I feel like, for like Nicole and myself to like not loop Greg in sometimes.
I also make that easy
Or-
by not always responding.
Well, yeah, and just like depending on, you know, people's like strengths or kind of what they
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to do. Like I think it's probably pretty easy, you know, not to overgeneralize, but like on the gear side, you know, for Greg to be able to act unilaterally, and a lot of times like
I set up these beautiful microphones
Yeah.
today.
a lot of times that does not like
Oh wait, no, sorry. You also
I
set up the microphone.
I did set up the microphone, but that's not typical. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything because you almost always do set the stuff up. But yeah, like, you know, it can be. I feel like we're all very, I guess, proactive in like our own pockets of expertise, and so yeah, it can be easy to be too proactive sometimes and not communicative. So yeah, it's good to have very open conversations about, you know, creative stuff we're doing, logistical things that we're doing, and then, you know, as we were talking about earlier too, like the more like personal, emotional side as well. Just being open.
Kind of a good, I don't know, I'm not sure if I said this before, but we're like a good Voltron collection of people to form together for a band. Like it doesn't, you know, being in bands, that's my strength, being in bands for, you know, years and years. Nicole went to school for music business. Natasha has been like writing music journalism, knows, I mean, that is such a huge component of being successfully in a band and playing out and getting people to come to your shows that a lot of bands lack that component. It almost doesn't matter like that Natasha didn't play drums when we started. That's not really important. Like if you love music and you want to play, that's like 80% of it, because then everything comes after that. And if you have all this other stuff, like of all the expertise among the three of us, that's worth way more than like running scales night after night on your guitar, or like, you know.
Totally. Yeah, and we came together like at a time where, you know, just it was fortuitous basically, because everyone had a chance individually to work on their different strengths and skills and interests. Diverse and long the list may be, but yeah, we had a ton of time to like practice on our own things that matter as being a part of a band, whether the actual musicianship or, you know, the other pieces. Like, I don't know, would we have gotten a show like had like Nicole not had all her booking experience and, you know, management experience? I don't know. Would we have gotten a show?
Yeah.
Maybe. Probably not. So yeah, I mean, it's all the like diverse background and years of experience came together at the right time.
Very cool. Very cool. Huh.
We're a great bunch.
I agree.
We're just a great bunch of fun-loving Hoosiers.
I don't think I'll ever actually claim being a Hoosier, so.
I think I'm the only hoser here.
Like,
oh my gosh, so much affinity. It's amazing.
Oh, goodness.
it's amazing.
How have our bands not played together? Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Kilometers of distance.
Yes.
We can plan.
Kalama what?
We're not on that system. We can plan a like ultimate live stream show together.
Oh my gosh.
That would be fun.
Are you manifesting it?
I'm putting it out there into the world.
Yeah, why don't we just start booking live stream
Let's do
shows
it.
with all the bands we're talking to in different
Fuck it.
places?
Stack these lineups. Make these shows happen.
I mean, why not? The world's gonna be the way it is for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do a world tour in one night.
Yeah.
I think like you know the band like Oceanator?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know Elise. She's basically doing like her press tour right now, where it's from her bedroom basically. Where,
Wow.
What a dream.
That's amazing.
What a dream.
Yeah, very excited for that record. Love what I've heard so far. It's awesome.
Maybe we'll just come out with a more unique way to tour after all this, like some more efficient and less punishing way to play like shows at other places. As someone who's been on tour before, I don't want to have to do that ever. I don't want to have to sleep under a piano with like a cat on my head.
You just don't have to go to that kind of tour.
Yeah.
Oh, the cats. Yeah, the cats.
Yeah.
I would love to go on a tour, just not like that.
Yeah.
Because I also just don't like cats. So I'm not a cat person.
I'm a dog person, but like I have like a cat allergy that will get worse as I age. So like it doesn't bother me now, but when I'm like 40 or 50, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I can't be around these things.
All gots to go.
My throat's closing up. I'm not going to be able to sing tonight.
But they keep wanting to sleep on my face.
Yeah. What is that?
I
Why,
don't
what,
get it. Privacy is just like
Murderers.
on more than one punk house floor that I slept on, a cat just like sidled right on up to my head. It's like, what is it about my head? There are pillows all over this room. Like, go find a pillow.
It is the weirdest thing. Like, and my bandmates love cats. Like, you'll see them, and you'll see them like, cause I'm the oldest member of my band too, but basically by like a year with the drum, by like a year with like our drummer. But like I often joke that like I'm the one member who like is not that into cats, and then you'll see the two of them, and I'm just like, ah, yes, the children and the cats.
The children at play with their feline friends.
Yes, the children.
I also, I have some wicked cat allergies, and I found that out the hard way.
it's so funny because I would think that you guys would be cat people.
I totally would
You
if they
seem
didn't.
like you would be cat people.
If they didn't
But,
make me
like,
cry
you
snot,
can't-
I would be a cat person.
Right? That's
Yeah.
okay. They got to dog sit this weekend and it was like the best ever.
Oh my
So-
gosh, yeah. Love dog sitting.
We're a dog band.
Yes.
There are pictures of that dog on our Instagram if y'all are curious.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Check them out.
We'll just start an Instagram for the dog and then maybe we can dog sit more.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
New strategy.
Wife patrol by day, wife patrol by night, dog patrol by day.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got it.
I love it. I love
Excellent.
it.
Yeah, I think our band, I think like my band's like known as like the bird band.
The bird band?
Yeah. the name John Crow means like
Right.
it's Jamaican proper for vulture, but like it has crow in the name, and yeah. But like nobody has come to our shows yet. Like nobody's come to our shows yet and brought parakeets. So
I was gonna say, like,
I did see some crows fighting this morning.
Oh.
It was very ominous, but
I was
also
gonna say, what an
couldn't-
omen.
I couldn't stop staring. I was like, what's gonna happen? What did you do? They were really getting at it. This is what happens when you are at home for 6 months.
a year.
Yeah, I know.
You notice everything now. I was like on the phone with my mom, I'm like, oh, mom, it's going down. The crows are fighting.
I've taken a keen interest in the birds' lives.
I was like, oh, something's happening. It was so exciting.
Oh my gosh.
hey, bird fights are exciting. I used to see chickens fight all the time.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Don't even. There's a stray chicken on my street. That's not actually stray, but it gets loose, and there's a whole thing about the chicken. But that's for another day.
Don't get her started.
That is for another day.
That's another 3 hour of the podcast.
Oh, great. Oh, God.
There's a goat too, but like I
Yep.
said, don't get her started.
No, there's 3 goats.
Oh, okay. Oh,
And no, I do not live on a farm, and I do not live close to
This
farm.
is all in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Mama did say America was a strange place. but like okay, I grew up around goats and chickens in Jamaica. I mean, I grew up around those types of creatures. They're nice. They'll attack you, but they're nice. They're tasty, but
Yeah, I'm like, all the chickens and goats I grew up around were like on a plate.
that too.
I was fine with them that
They
way.
weren't nesting in my engine block.
Right?
Yeah.
That happened a lot, actually. you'd go and you see chickens underneath the truck. We had a generator because power would go off sometimes, and like you'd see chickens like laying their eggs in there.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just like, why are there chickens in the like, Mom, why are there chickens in the generator room? I don't know, Daniel.
Seems like the danger zone. About to be some fried eggs.
Oh gosh.
Or my sister's to this day is afraid of goats. She like thinks they're
Oh, wow.
they're like spying on her.
With their rectangle eyes.
Yes.
Rectangular pupils are very, yeah, satanic, you might say.
Yes, you might.
But God, are they not tasty? Yeah. God, I'm hungry now. But I digress. I digress. I gotta ask you about that at another point about free goats.
About the livestock in my life.
It's that bad in America. There's just farm animals running everywhere.
You got a cheetah running the place. You got COVID-19 happening. You got the South and and you got chickens and goats in the streets.
I feel like there needs to be a dramatic rewrite of the American dream.
Madness here.
Oh God.
Yeah. Going. There's a lot of things getting tested this year.
It is a comic, tragic, romantic farmland soiree in America.
That said, I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, likewise.
There's a lot to be grateful for. Yeah, we've had a lot of time to count our blessings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm thankful I'm here in Canada. Far away from the U.S. border. It ain't perfect here, but yeah. Mind you, I'll say this: touring to the States is more difficult for us because, like, if you're a Canadian band, like, you have to get a visa. Otherwise, they'll ban you for 5 years. So,
Whoa.
You have to get like a work visa just to be in a touring band?
yep.
I had no idea.
Wow.
And they can still like just give you heck at the border. So like you can imagine for a band like mine, and
Yeah.
other types of bands, there's a bit of anxiety. Like we would theoretically be fine, but still you have to pay to get the visa process. It takes a while, and there's a bunch of paperwork. There's ways to kind of expedite it and do things legit, but without some of the extra rigmarole. But like still, whereas you guys, you can just come up here, and as long as you make under, I think, like, as long as you don't make a absorbent amount, like I'm talking like a ridiculous amount, you're fine. You can just come
I remember reading the memoir for the band Heart, and they were saying how so much of their early career was playing in Canada, and I thought that was really interesting.
How far a drive is Canada from us, like via Detroit, maybe?
8 hours.
Okay. Have you toured in America?
10 hours, maybe.
Or have you played shows? Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Mostly for the aforementioned reasons. Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
for us to go to the States, like we could theoretically in terms of like distance, because it's we've gone to Montreal, and like getting to like America, playing Buffalo, or just playing the States would be like the hours we've drived going to Montreal, Quebec City, etc. We could have gone to like I think Brooklyn or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's possible. It's not that difficult in terms of the actual driving. It's just like the visa process and like
Yeah, I wouldn't want to screw with that.
Yeah, and the cost of doing that too is like, okay, if we do this, like especially for at the time as a band, it wasn't like logistically feasible to like spend the money to do that, to kind of play, shows, risk all the distance and everything else. We're planning we're gonna do that, like we were planning on doing that next year after we've gained some notoriety, but COVID happened. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you ever toured Canada at all?
Have not.
Mm-mm.
No, I've only played shows in, I think, only toured the U.S. Been all around, but
I went to Niagara Falls. My family drove through Canada once. I think when we went to Niagara Falls and we took like the day to sort of drive around. And I just remember being really surprised that there weren't like rest stops. Like we really had to go to the bathroom and it was like, where do you stop? And
no rest stops in Canada.
we went to like, we ended up I just don't remember where we were. Like it wasn't like we were just kind of driving on a just kind of random highway. I feel like it wasn't like we went to a city. Just like, let's drive around after doing Niagara Falls. And then like we stopped at like a restaurant or something on the side of this road. And then like my mom had to buy a bottle of water to use the bathroom because they were like customers only.
Say that about America. We got plenty of toilets down here.
Like define rest stop. Like I'm not like wait, is it like a random outhouse in the middle of bumfuck nowhere? Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's just a little plywood shack with a crescent moon cutting the door and a little stovepipe coming out of the roof with a fumes.
Oh,
And you'll see several semis pulled up alongside in line. No, like there's an exit, and then there's like a little shelter with a men's room and a women's room, and then like a candy bar machine
and water fountains
and
some maps.
some picnic tables and shelters from back when people would do that
Mm-hmm.
instead of just go to Subway or whatever.
I can. So my band, we've mostly like gone around like southern Ontario and Quebec. Yeah, like properly touring Quebec is an entirely different beast. But we've driven through Quebec. We've done the Montreal trip. We've gone through to Quebec City. It's interesting. It's basically like Nowheresville for most of that province, but
Yeah.
lots of French. But
What are the that's true. What are the drives like touring like that in Canada? Like 8-hour, 10-hour drives, or can you get a little shorter?
It depends. Like, because I know bands that like have done the whole like country ride toured by driving. It's like so basically there's only a couple major cities in the area in like all of Canada, like Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, maybe Halifax if people remember, and that's for the entirety of the East Coast. And it's like the second largest by land area like country in the world, and it's underpopulated. So like you can imagine like specifically when you drive to our version of the Midwest, which is basically prairie country, and it's just miles of nothing, and small towns. So like where I live, like there's a bunch of like smaller towns and cities you can kind of drive to. And, there's like micro scenes there. You can get like 100 people in many of these places, 200 maybe.
Not bad.
Yeah. And where, so if you're like a mid-sized band, that's pretty good. Cause like, Radiohead's never going to play like Peterborough, for example, because they don't have like, you've never heard of it, I'm sure. But
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Because they don't have like the infrastructure to have like a capacity of like I think 2,000 people, or how many people does Radiohead draw here? I don't know for how many tens of thousands of people, but like so they'll just play Toronto if they want to get like certain areas, and most bands will just play Montreal, maybe Toronto, maybe Vancouver, maybe. But there's so many other smaller cities that you could play in all of Canada. So if you want to do like the major city tour, you're talking like 8, 10, 22-hour drives, even 2-day drives if you just want to do like only major cities, because like basically if you go from like Vancouver to like Calgary, I forget how many hours that is. You have to go through mountains and prairies, and from like basically Calgary to like Toronto, you're talking like a 2-day drive. I'm not even kidding.
They could not be in a car with me for 2 days.
I don't think I could be in a car, period, for 2 days.
I could not.
At this point in my life. Like touring the Western U.S. was bad enough, and those drives were only ever like 8, maybe 10 hours, but nothing longer than that.
Yeah.
2 days. Just as it sounds like a living nightmare.
How would we eat?
Like there are small towns. Like again, like if you do proper DIY touring, you can play the small towns and it's not as bad. Like you can do a
Mhm.
month-long tour and just Canada and play only
Right.
small towns and major cities. But like if you again, that's the 2 days straight of driving is just if you want to do like only major cities.
Yeah.
Right.
And
We played like I remember when we played a show, and then the next day we were all trying to get breakfast, and we all have different food allergies, and we were so frustrated at that point with each other that it was like we all had a meltdown collectively.
It was very collective and it was very meltdown.
So I'm just like,
Did
imagine
we all
us
three go?
driving for like 2 days and then trying to stop and agree on a place to eat. And like the tour would just be over right then.
It would just be gas station after gas station, and we'd all have to have like some kind of plastic wrap partition within the car so we wouldn't inhale like each other's gas station
Allergens,
peanuts or
yeah.
Raisinets, chocolate dust.
We would just lose it. We'd be like 4 hours in, and we're like, this tour's over. I'm hungry.
welcome
Let's
to
go home and pass tracks back and forth over the computer.
welcome
Tour is
to-
canceled. Band's broken up. Greg is dead.
The band ended over a hangry attack.
Oh man.
welcome to Canada, but the biggest stretch is the prairies. The prairies, which is like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta to a degree. If you go through like the prairie region of like Canada, it's miles of nothing. So you're basically like driving and it's the same type of scene. So you ever heard of like the middle of bumfuck nowhere in the United States? Like if you ever watch like Courage the Cowardly Dog, if you've seen that show.
No. Have you, Nicole?
I've heard of that show, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so it's set in like I don't know, nowhere US, right? And there's like this farm with surprisingly no vegetation and there's like miles and miles of nothing. But there's a town nearby, I guess. I don't know how the geography in that show's universe works, but there's a road. Anyways, imagine that. Imagine like what you think of like prairie country, like farmland. But imagine that like stretch.
Oh, we don't have to imagine.
That's what I think of with when I think about Nebraska, but I know it's
Yeah.
got cities.
I grew up in Nebraska, so yeah. Not a lot of folks. Not
Well,
a lot
and
of
even
folks.
rural Indiana, like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
fairly flat, but
We
the
had
flatness of Nebraska is something.
we had dial up for a really long time where I grew up.
Oh, God.
In Iowa, like driving out to Nebraska, going along Iowa, you could like roll a marble from one end of Iowa to the other. It is so flat. Like,
Yeah, unobstructed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, imagine that, but worse, like with less major cities. and you
Yeah.
have the prairies, and every single band I've heard I've talked to, and people I know, people from the prairies, when they say that, well, the worst thing about going through Canada is the prairie trek because you're just driving through miles of nothing and you're just
Mhm.
keeping pain.
Lose
oh,
it.
man.
Lose it. I will say, as another Canada point, the only way I know the names of most of those cities you've mentioned is because Netflix tricked me into watching this show called Heartland
Ooh.
about a girl who loves horses in Canada. I thought I would just like check it out, and now I'm like waiting for the next season to finally get to Netflix. I've been watching the show for like 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
I
You have an
do love-
intimate knowledge of the
I
prairies.
do love to watch Heartland.
That's very on brand for you. I don't know this show, Nicole, but your description of it, like, it seems like it was tailor-made for you.
I didn't know Canada had a heartland. Is that a common expression for Canada? Like we live in the American heartland. I didn't know there was a Canadian heartland.
Heartland is the name of the like farm, like
Oh, okay, okay.
horse. I don't know. What do you call a horse
Ranch.
place? A ranch.
How
I
long have
know.
you been watching this
I really
show?
identify with this show because I grew up around horses. No, I did not. But
Horse
yeah,
place.
yes, the ranch that they live on is called Heartland.
I see.
Okay.
Okay, I've never seen this show, but I gotta check this out now.
It's a Canadian institution.
Nicole says so.
There's so many shows Netflix has tricked me into liking because it knows me better than I want it to, and You know, I'll just be like, I'm not gonna watch that. That looks really cheesy. And then like one day I'm like, but you know what? Maybe I'll check it out.
Oh God, that's
But yeah, I
I'm-
love a good tearjerker. I love a good romantic comedy.
You're like
I'm
the
down for
one
that.
person
Holiday
for whom
movie.
the Netflix algorithm has actually worked.
Oh my gosh, it works so bad. Like it's just like, oh, there's so many things that I'm like, I'm not gonna watch that. And then like that's how I ended up watching another show that was taped in and supposedly takes place in Canada, which is a Hallmark TV show called When Calls the Heart. I watch far too much of. But that ties into my love of watching Hallmark Christmas movies that are mostly filmed in Canada as well. So,
how
Yeah.
have you not played here yet? Like,
they just need to cast me in a Hallmark Christmas movie, and then we can play a show together.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yo, you being on this interview is fate, man.
I heard that Hallmark's trying to get more diverse now that they've made their statement. So, hey, what's up?
Take me to the Hallmark soundstage,
I'm
Canada.
ready. I'll bring a mask.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But honestly, it's just one of those weirder things about Canadian like culture and Canadian like stuff. Like, we produce a lot of things, but it's very rare it ever gets like recognized as Canadian. I think probably the most famous Canadian band people remember sometimes is like Nickelback, and that's outside of like bands not Drake. And everyone hates Nickelback, and I'm just like I'm very happy some people forget they're Canadian.
I was about to say,
my
I did
gosh.
not know they were Canadian.
What? How did you not know that?
So until you mentioned
Simple
it,
Plan also.
until you mentioned that, I was just going to continue hating Boston or wherever I assumed Nickelback was from.
Simple Plan from Canada. Sum 41.
Yep.
The band?
Yes.
No, the band.
Oh, the band. It's like, what? The band? The band Sum 41. No, the band. I gotcha. I'm with it.
Neil Young. No, there's plenty of
So much.
golden
There's some good
Canadian
there's some great
exports.
stuff.
Oh,
The
definitely.
show Anne with an E. Oh my gosh, Anne of Green Gables. I have watched like every rendition of Anne of Green Gables.
What is that to do? Is that Canadian?
Yes, Anne of Green Gables takes place in Canada on the fictional. Is it as
Oh.
like Prince? Is it Prince somebody island?
Edward?
Anyway, Prince Edward Island.
It's not fictional. It's real.
Not fictional. Okay. No. Okay. Good.
It's very tiny. It's very, very tiny. But
Prince
yeah.
Edward Island. There we go.
I always assumed that was just like some Jane Austen-esque.
Oh my
British-
gosh. I literally just rewatched that like this weekend.
Oh my
Love
gosh.
it, Anne.
Prepping for the interview, Nicole was like, I'm about to get on
I gotta
the
get
phone
ready.
with Canada. I gotta get ready. Yeah. Oh,
It's a good show. It's a great story. I'm a fan.
Did you watch the cartoon?
I haven't watched the cartoon. I saw the version with Megan Fellows from like the 80s, 90s. My mom actually loved that. It used to come on the Disney Channel all the time, and I remember a lot of like hair braiding days where my mom was braiding my hair and watching Anne of Avonlea. So that's where it all started.
Very cool. Very cool.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Anne of Green Gables is like a novel first and foremost, right?
Mhm.
Okay. And it's set in Canada, the novel is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
The author is also Canadian.
holy smokes!
And the theme song for Anne with an E is by the band, was it Tragically Hip?
The Tragically
The
Hip.
Tragically Hip? Yeah, it's a
The-
great song.
one of the great Canadian bands.
See, y'all got a lot going on.
There's time.
so much going on.
This whole interview is us boosting Canada.
I know. We're like kissing so much ass. Like we gotta get up there.
We gotta go.
This is our relocation audition.
Yeah.
Our examples are so stock too. Is Degrassi Junior High. Nobody said Wayne Gretzky yet, but we might as well have.
Yeah.
It's like if someone was talking to us and like, I love Hoosiers. One of my favorite movies. Big fan of Indy 500.
Yeah.
I did not realize it was the Indy 500 last weekend
I
until
didn't
I heard
either.
all the loud noise and was like, "What's going on?"
Oh yeah, the COVID edition of the Great Race.
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
my god!
Oh,
Oh
God.
my goodness! Needless to say, we're fans of Canada. We like what
are.
you're doing there. Keep up the good work.
Yes. Thanks for having
We will
us.
happily accept an invitation to visit.
Yes.
We would
For
love
a
to come.
day or a lifetime.
Well, when COVID ends, you always have you just ask and I shall book.
Excellent.
We would
We
love to
love
come.
it.
For sure.
Now to my next question. I guess just mostly because we haven't really delved as deeply into Indianapolis. Now, what are the hallmarks of Indianapolis? Indianapolis, really like. What's it like there? What's the scene kind of overall there? What's the vibe like besides the chickens and the
Vibe.
goats?
The vibe of Indianapolis is like it's a town in a city.
I love that.
Whoa, that
Like-
says it all.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like that's
I can't
all
believe I've never heard that before.
Indiana major cities
Yeah.
are like a town that got bigger by adding more towns.
Yes.
Like-
yeah.
It's a town-glomerate.
It's a
Yes.
city, but you're never really that far a drive from hitting a cornfield.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, like
Mhm, mhm.
it's not that we're just like cornfields all around, but like it's the Midwest of the United States, which weirdly we're more central when you actually look at a map of the United States. Kind of more Mideast when you look at it. Anyway,
Well, but it was named as
I know. While they were going west,
as the white man went
was
west.
over there pillaging and taking everything
Mhm,
and
mhm.
discovering lands that already had people on them.
This is the
Um,
Midwest.
So yeah, I feel like it's interesting because I grew up, my father grew up in Manhattan. My dad's people are New York people. My mom grew up in Alabama in the South. And I always thought I was going to live in New York City growing up. I'm like, I'm going to be a city person. I'm going to live out there. And I went out to visit when I had graduated college. And I was like, I can't live here. Like, it's just too much. It's too much. There's noise all the time. People are honking their horns. They don't know what they're honking at. I don't understand. It's too much for me right now. But living in these sort of cities that still have that are still able to keep the appeal of small towns worked well for me. It's not as big as Chicago, obviously. I like to visit Chicago, but I don't know that I could live in Chicago full time. But I like that here, there's still variety in a place like Indianapolis. There's a lot of different places to go. There's a lot of places to explore. There are parts of the city I've never been to.
Mhm.
But also there's that sense of small town. Like you get to know people and you get to build community and it doesn't feel like you're that far.
Yeah, I think for some people it's a double-edged sword where the appeal of it and the non-appeal, the repellent of it, is that it can feel like a small town in a city with a skyline. So you have all the advantages of familiarity and actually having an ability to get involved in a community in a way you can't in places that are much larger, but you still get all the advantages of having a city with, lots of venues, a symphony, museums and art and all this stuff. But you are not able to, I guess, if you rise to the upper echelons of a city like Chicago or New York or something, that obviously does not exist here. I don't know. It's the problem is, and the problem that it's always had for literally exactly 200 years now, is that it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain exactly what kind of city Indianapolis is because it keeps trying to be a different sort of city with each generation, it seems like.
Mhm.
Like it's a landlocked city, which was impossible until very recently. So it's it kind of developed in a weird way.
But they forgot to build a transit system.
Yeah, well, they
They
forgot
ripped it
to
up.
keep the one they had.
They ripped it up.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, the what was it? Rail car? Cable
Mhm.
car?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
interesting though, because I find that like people who don't know anything about Indiana will still see it as like just like there's no frame of reference, and they'll just think it's just everything about Indiana is like farm country. But because we are located in between, say, Chicago and Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati, I think people are pleasantly surprised at how many like big acts do tour through Indianapolis and come through
Mhm.
this area, because it's on the way to one of those places. You know, if they're
Mhm.
going to Nashville from Chicago, they're probably going to stop in Indianapolis, you know, like,
Mhm.
so we surprisingly get a lot more national events than people would expect.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, like pre-COVID, I feel like there is literally something to do every single night. And I feel like I've heard transplants from other cities move here, like big cities, move here and be like, what? Like, there's something to do, like on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, like every night. And like, I don't know. I've occasionally heard other transplants be like, it's boring here. And I'm like, have you looked around? Like, there's so much to do. I mean, if you have, you know, a variety of interests, you know, more, if you're interested in more than two things, like there's always something to do. It's like,
Boring people will be bored here.
boring people will be bored here. But like, I mean, it's a big sports city. And even though that's not like one of my big hobbies, like I enjoy seeing sports on occasion. So people who love sports, like, love
Indiana
it.
loves sports.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like, there's tons of, music,
And you'll get,
lots
because
of great parks here.
because of the proximity to other cities Nicole was talking about, when certain, not enormous acts, but like mid-sized and larger acts that typically would not play a city like Indianapolis will stop here because it's an easy drive from Cincinnati to Chicago or
Mhm.
wherever, and Chicago. You will see bands in venues that you aren't meant to see them. Like, I remember when Super Furry Animals was coming through America, this Welsh band that plays stadiums in, the UK, and they were playing, I don't know, probably the Metro or the Vic or the Riviera, someplace larger in Chicago. They stopped in Indianapolis and they played this venue called Birdies for,
What?
I mean, sorry
Yeah.
to say, for probably like 24 people, but this huge band who I'm sure had a miserable night. Nevertheless, my buddy Grant and I were like, I can't believe we get to watch Super Furry Animals from like inches away from their feet. Like there's no other way that happens other than being in Indianapolis and just being like, a stop for them on the way to hopefully make some money, which they probably didn't, but
Yeah. They got a bite to eat or something.
yeah, they got to enjoy one
They
of our
changed your
signature
life.
tenderloins.
Yeah. Greg got to do some pedalboard gazing.
Yeah.
Up close.
Oh my gosh.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget that show. That was so hilarious.
That's cool.
But that's happened, that happens all the time. That happened with Interpol. It happened with Meat Puppets when they were touring, Silver Jews, like these bands that can easily come here, like as a stop, will play small venues and you get like a really intimate set from larger bands that way.
Mhm.
Very cool. With that's similar to Canadian bands. I'm not gonna lie. Like with as I mentioned, with the small town stuff, like you'll have so a lot of Canadian bands don't really, have a lot of attention outside of Canada. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
particularly in the indie sphere. Like even a guy like even one of our bigger kind of like stalwarts like Matthew Good, if you know him, he'll play like small venues in the States, but he'll like play sold out like Massey, like our version of like Massey Hall of the Apollo here.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's weird when that happens. It's strange why it doesn't translate from like, I mean, there's nothing to translate from Canada to America. So what is it that's like, yeah.
we're Canadian.
So much of my realm of Canadian bands comes from watching The Inn and like Canadian TV shows,
Oh my
like
gosh.
Radio Free
Yeah.
Roscoe and
Totally.
Degrassi. There were like so many cool bands on those shows.
Yeah.
I forgot Radio Free Roscoe was a thing. Thank you for reminding me.
Oh my god, I loved that show because they had a girl who played guitar on there, and I was like, yes!
Oh, cool.
And Sky Sweetnam's guest spot on there, another Canadian musician that I was like super into when I was a teenager because she played guitar and had like just this interesting blend of pop and rock music that I really enjoyed, and I liked her look. So
Not to bring it back to Degrassi, but what was the band of Degrassi Junior High? Was it the Zits?
oh my gosh, the Zit Remedy. That's
Zit
from
Remedy?
the original Degrassi. Then it became the Zits.
Okay.
There was also Hell Hath No Fury on the new generation.
Okay. Well, that
The next generation.
that's after my time. I'm Generation Zits.
That's
Everybody wants something, they'll never give up.
Oh, that like 30-second song.
The only song they had. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh god.
Canada, I swear we know more about you than Degrassi Junior High. This is
No.
But if
Not
you ask the
representative.
question, I will probably answer it. If it's yeah, I watched a lot of Degrassi. Like,
Hey, like honestly, like you guys know more about like Canadian culture, but than most Americans I've ever talked to.
yeah.
That's
And
amazing.
I'm actually surprised. Oh god. But yeah, like going to that, like some of our bigger, like say particularly in the indie rock sphere, like how you, for example, you might have like say a Meat Puppets, for example, or even a Dinosaur Jr. Like a Canadian version of Dinosaur Jr., for example, is that might, for example, play like our version of like say the Apollo in Toronto or Montreal will still like play like smaller, like it will still play like the smaller shows because they're not like say the Tragically Hip, which basically was our stadium rock band, or like a Rush.
Mm-hmm.
So like you'll get like Julie DeRoyne from Eric Tripp, for example, playing like this venue in Peterborough that I played say last year that has like 300 people. It can house like 300 people or something, or like you'll have like I didn't bring 300 people, but it has that capacity.
yeah.
Or like you get like a band like Sloan playing like in Sudbury to like I think a capacity of like 400 capacity room or something like that. And so you'll get like that type of range.
And that
It's
can
very
be
interesting.
that can be a real treat for like the people in those towns, or like people when I was a kid here in Indianapolis, and like Mogwai stopped on the way to Chicago, and it's like, oh my god, we get to see Mogwai. Like, not a lot of people know, but the people who get to see that show like are extremely grateful that you
Mhm.
are playing their town and in a venue as intimate as that, because they can be like some of the best shows that those
Yeah.
bands play.
That would be, I mean, I was in the middle of Nebraska, so I didn't see anything ever. But yeah, that would have been amazing. Like, wow. Would have had a great impact on my childhood and teenage years.
Yeah. Well, you can like take it down a notch too to like the Black Flag DIY touring circuit and play places like Pierre, North Dakota, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then you can get like those bands, like the real DIY punk bands, but that's only that kind of band really that does that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. And it's very fast. It's very fascinating, like the dynamics of how those work. But also just seeing the similarity, I guess as well. I guess as well. I've never really thought of comparing like touring in Canada to like kind of going into like the Midwest. But I guess
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. It makes sense.
It sounds similar. Yeah.
Except the goats and the chickens. My band has driven through many a town, and I have yet to see chickens in the streets.
It's
Then you don't know COVID in America. Chickens everywhere. They're taking over. Practically.
Taken over.
Now, on on to my final questions for you all. I have to ask in regards to the upcoming EP. Well, no, upcoming LP. It's an LP,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been yeah a lot. I've just been seeing a lot of EPs of the past year.
I can imagine a lot are getting
Yes.
recorded in
Yeah.
the quarantine. Yeah.
Yeah, so just keeping track of everything. Now, now we've talked a bit about the new recording and the excitement for it, but I'm curious, like what can we expect from that? Like, what can we expect from that? Like, will there be any bongo drums, for example? Will there be ocarina?
That is so funny that is what you
Yeah.
asked.
Yeah, I mean,
Daniel, I tried like hell to get some bongo drums on there, but they would keep walking down and be
Didn't
like,
take.
"Did we just go into your dorm room or something? What is this? Get out of here with the bongos."
You actually tried?
I think indeed, yeah. Like they maybe,
Yep, back there.
I don't know, were they on there for?
No, they
No.
never made it.
Mm-mm.
But didn't you record some for it though?
I
Or
recorded on
maybe it
like
was for
several
something
different
else.
songs,
Yeah.
some bongo tracks, but
Yeah,
they always
like-
sounded real
We
forced.
torpedoed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say something that people can expect is just a set of songs that reflect the diversity and variety of musical interests that we have. I feel like the record as a whole sounds like us as a band, but you'll get a lot of kind of divergent feels according to the song. Like they all still sound like us, but we go a lot of different directions because we as people and we as a band like a lot of different sounds.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's a lot of just styles present, and it's one of my favorite things. I feel like there's always so much pressure to like put out some sort of like complete themed statement, and that's just never really been how either of us listen to music individually or even together. The things that interest us are so wide range. There's genres and bands that we have in common, and there's genres and bands that some of us would be like, oh, I don't listen to that.
For sure.
You know, and like, but all of them kind of find their way into our music, and I think that's really cool and just a really great representation of us. And I think, I hope that people appreciate that, because I feel like anybody who loves music loves all kinds of music.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and the way we recorded these songs this time with our buddy David Hazel of Bullet Points and many other local bands here in Indianapolis. The way we recorded with him meant that we kind of did our basic tracking of guitar, bass, and drums as a live band at his studio. And then we came back here to our beautiful basement to record just whatever we wanted to on top of all that. So we really got to kind of take our time and arrange and add sounds to kind of make the songs sound like how they feel to us live, even though
Mhm.
we're giving you sounds that we can't, do as a 3-piece necessarily.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. And I think that's something we want to keep around for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say too that we spent, not like full time working on the record for 9 months, but like it was over 9 months that we spent recording and adding overdubs and mixing and even adding elements to the recording, like into the mixing process as we, identified areas that, could be strengthened by an additional part. So a lot of hard work, but
Took our sweet time.
so satisfying because we did take our time and did it, in a way that we could be really proud of and excited about.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm very much looking forward to this. And like, honestly, the fact that you had bongos in mind, like, I think this year is
I'm going
the
to get them
year-
right now.
My God.
I think this.
Yeah, they're too far.
I think this year is the year of bongos and like percussion, because like there's a there's a black fronted band from Toronto called the OBGMs. They're favorites of mine. Their
Oh,
latest
say their name one more time. What was it?
OBGMs. The
Okay.
OBGMs. Yeah, they are.
Mhm.
It stands for Oh Baby Give Me Mores.
Cool.
Awesome.
Clever.
They're really dope. They were one of the few like Jamaican fronted like Canadian rock bands I knew about like before the past for like the past 3 years, because like there's now been a lot more like
Huh.
there's like a wave of us coming out of like this area.
Awesome. Amazing.
It kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I'm stoked on that. But back to them, like, yeah, their latest record has like a bunch of like percussion on, like it has like bongos on a bunch of songs, and I'm just like, what? It's amazing. But it's like, why?
It's
That's
happening?
awesome. That's cool as hell.
not as easy as it looks.
No.
I mean, I couldn't do it. I feel like bongos are such a stout drum that like I would risk like hurting my fingers trying to play that drum.
You have no idea what I went through trying to put bongos on our songs. I had bruises on my knuckles. And then Nicole and Natasha would walk down and I'd say, listen to this. Dun, 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 totally arrhythmic garbage. And they'd be like, I don't think so.
Maybe
I'd be
next,
like, but my hands are bleeding.
maybe next time. Veto for now.
We can save that for your what's that
My
freak
solo.
jazz album that you're gonna make?
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast about Bitches Brew, and I became so obsessed with the recording of Bitches Brew and the process by which it was edited and performed and like tape spliced. And so I came downstairs and started doing some experimenting of my own, and it was shared in confidence, but Nicole decided to blow up my spot here.
Oh man, I just thought of something that might make sense to Canadian listeners.
What could it be?
What could it be? But there's a song on the album. This is the first single that we put out called "Let's Hang Out." It's a fun, upbeat song, but we started out with this kind of like long, almost minute-long jam before the song really like shifts into itself, and that was a direct inspiration from a Canadian band called the Courtneys that I've been listening to for a number of years. When we started playing in this band, I was like really interested in hearing other three-piece bands that were just be able to create a lot with their sound. Like one of my favorite bands is Slater-Kinney. But the Courtneys, I don't even remember how I ended up, I feel like they made it like snuck into like a Spotify algorithm or something, and I loved their sound, but I loved how on their songs they would just have these sort of long themes that would start their songs, and then it would suddenly shift, and like the song would start, the lyrics start, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know the song was going there, and I really wanted to try to do something like that in a song, and that's how we got to the kind of opening jam beginning of the song "Let's Hang Out."
Totally. Yeah.
Just
Canadian
move-
kiss asses.
Just move here.
They're such a great band.
Now, be honest. What's the winter like there, Daniel? Like, could we handle it?
What's the winter like where you are?
It gets cold. It gets
cold and
cold and
wet.
snowy sometimes. Sometimes we dodge a bullet and it never gets too far below zero, if at all.
I have a coat that goes down to my ankles now, so I think I'm ready.
Honestly, like Minnesota is worse. Like if you live in like if you lived in like Minneapolis, for example, another Appalus city.
Yes,
Yep.
I know it's snow.
One of the three Appalachians of America.
Yeah, if you lived in Minneapolis, for example, like it's more north than where I am. Like where
Oh wow.
I'm situated, like we're more south.
Oh.
Like parts of
I'm an
Michigan
idiot.
are
I'm an
more
idiot.
north.
Okay.
So
Whoa.
we have roughly the same weather as New York. As New York.
That's the same as us, pretty much. Sounds
Yeah.
like. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it doesn't have the wind of Chicago, I'm down.
Yeah.
no,
Because
no,
Chicago winters are just like brutal.
Yeah.
Like it's
no.
painful.
The lake effect. Yeah.
We have a lake effect too, but like it's not as bad. Like we're
Hmm.
not as windy. It's
Brutal.
not as bad, I would imagine. Like Montreal winters are worse.
And I have family in Buffalo, and when they get lake effect snow, it's hell on earth.
Last year was one of the first times I actually spent like a couple of days in Chicago in the summertime. And I was like, this is doing so much justice over the years that I was just convinced that Chicago was the worst because I had only visited there in the wintertime.
Wow.
And I was like, how is this possible? Like, it was so cold. The wind was in my face. My face just hurt. Like, it was just painful. It was rough. So as long as it's not that, like, I could probably do it.
Yeah, it's not. It can get that bad occasionally, but on average, like it's mostly just like a normal winter. Like you'll have very cold days, but like honestly, like they're like Ottawa has it worse, Montreal has it worse,
Mhm.
Thunder Bay has it worse because more north than us, and
Right.
there's a lot of worse places. Like where we are in the GTA is pretty safe. It's pretty fine with that.
Hmm.
All right, we're moving in.
We're moving in. We're hopping on a bill with the Courtneys. It's time.
Clear out the basement.
just sneak on in.
You'll wake up tomorrow and be like, hey, you guys some coffee?
Oh god. But yeah. I got it. Man, everyone watching who's gonna watch this interview is gonna be like, huh, they know a lot about Canada. But moving on. Now, going forward. Now, I have to ask what's next? Like, if you guys next for you guys, like, must be outside the EP, LP. Sorry, I have EPs on the brain. Outside, I think you're the only like LP that like I've been like kind of like excited for outside of Oceanators. That
Oh,
Oh
is
my gosh.
That's such a compliment.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
yeah, you make awesome songs. You make awesome songs. I'm stoked to hear like an album, like the entire album's worth, and it's just like, so because of that, like I basically I just automatically will be like, oh, EP, and like, oh no, it's an LP. It's an LP. But
Mhm.
outside of that, what's next for you guys? Like after that, like what are you kind of hoping to do? I mean, all things considered, you gonna keep recording like quarantine songs like How to Lose, or are you gonna like, I don't know, try? Are you gonna like, I don't know, remote direct an orchestra to like, I don't know, make video game renditions of your album? Like what do you like?
Oh my
What's
gosh,
next?
I can't
love
believe you said that.
idea.
That's exactly
I
what
love
we're
that
doing.
idea.
Brilliant. Well, one of the things that is really exciting from my standpoint is that we have so many ideas that have been floating around for some time now that, our attention has been focused on the LP and just, other things going on in our lives. And so I am extremely thrilled to work on some of these song ideas that have been in the hopper for, some time, over the 9 months that we were recording Too Prickly for This World, and even more recent, like within recent weeks, ideas that have been coming up. So I would imagine, I don't know, we haven't discussed in depth like how those are going to take shape or what the final form could look like, but I would love to at least get some very, very solid demos at home, if not just like home record them outright, similar to How to Lose. I think there are a lot of possibilities. Like, we have so much material that's backed up that I feel like once we are able to sit down and really focus, like, I mean, there's an LP worth of stuff that we have a backlog of.
At least, yeah.
But how that ends up kind of manifesting ultimately and taking shape, is up for discussion. We've not gotten that far down the road.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we can do with that. It's so funny because I feel like before it was like it was hard to work on new songs because we had to prepare for shows all the time.
Mhm.
You know, like, oh, we
Yeah.
got to get ready for this show, so we don't really have as much time to like fine tune that, or like, well, this one's ready, so we'll put that out and change the set list. But it was just hard to make the time because you're like, our practices were dedicated to getting ready for a show. And
Right.
like right now, we don't have a lot of shows going on, so I feel like once this album comes out, it'd be interesting to see what we could do with taking that time to actually flesh out new material without the pressure of trying to get it ready for a show.
Right. Yeah. I mean, for a long time, our rehearsal schedule was pretty stringent. I mean, like minimum 1 rehearsal a week, sometimes like 3 rehearsals a week, all of us together, plus like practicing on our own. And I mean, again, a big part of that is like being a new band. And then, you know, in my case, like learning a new instrument. So it was pretty vital to get a ton of practice in so that we could perform, and, you know, to write enough so that we could perform, you know, a 20 to 25-minute set. But yeah, I mean, feeling more confident as, you know, myself as an instrumentalist, and then all of us, I think, evolving as songwriters. I mean, now's the time to really like stretch out and, you know, try new things that maybe were not our immediate strengths when we came together, but figuring out how we can continue to push each other and be creative in new ways.
Agreed.
Well, I'm stoked. I got more music to look forward to.
Yeah, it'd be great to get some more songs up.
Totally.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Now, Life Patrol, do you have any, I guess, closing words for the people out there? Anything you want people to walk away with? I don't know. I don't know. Favorite teddy bear. I don't know. What do you have to say? What do you have to? What are your final words to the people out there watching?
Well, as Canadian citizens, I feel we would have a lot to offer.
We bring skills and enthusiasm.
Yes.
I have a bad back, but I do have a lot of upper body strength. So if there were warehouse work you needed done,
Or just, I mean, this has been a really great opportunity to talk to you and to talk about our music, to talk about your music, to just share. And, you know, it's great for me. I love when I can talk to another Black musician. One, in general, I can talk to another Black musician, period. But also to share in those experiences that we have in terms of existing in our spaces and looking to build something better. And so it's a real pleasure to be able to talk to you and learn about the things that you've been doing, talk about the things that I've been doing and we've been doing, and just really have hope for more opportunities to see ourselves represented. You know, a lot of us didn't have the map and didn't have the role models to look at, and now we can be those people that someone else sees one day and says like, oh, I love what they're doing and I want to do that and I can do that too. And that's so incredibly important. So I guess that's where I will leave it.
sounds good to me.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for you know, appearing on the. Is this a show or a podcast or a video? What am I calling this?
All of it.
Yes, all of it.
It's a showcast.
Clubhouse.
But no, thank you for appearing on the NQT series. I look forward to the LP release day buddies, and
Yeah.
looking forward to, you know, what else you guys keep doing in the future, and also the day our bands play together, because it seems written in the
Oh my
stars.
God.
That's gonna
Yes.
happen at some point.
It would be so perfect.
Yes.
I would love to play a show with you.
And it'll be an
Sega?
early set time so we can get home and watch some Degrassi together. And just kind of, it'll have to be the first of those so that I can.
We live in the future. I can just bring the video to the green room.
Yes.
We don't have to watch Nicole's VHS copies. We don't have to find a coaxial cable to hook up a VCR to a cathode ray YouTube TV.
We could just take the VHS to Healer, set up a show at Healer.
Yeah, that's
Just, yeah,
true.
put it on the screen while we're
VCR room.
playing.
Yeah.
true. Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it.
Just double time.
Sweet.
Yo, so quick side note. Last year at Lingua Franca, we played this theater where I booked it at a theater one of the days, and in the background it was the theater. I respect the theater. I respect the theater is really cool, but like I was in the most endearing way possible. It had the most kind of like bootleg kind of classic kind of DIY setup you've ever seen because it was an old theater. And so they were streaming. They asked the bands like, "What would you like me to like put on and stream like in the background while you're playing?" And everyone like would pick all this weird anime or weird film stuff. I like had Dragon Ball Z going on while
Yes.
while you were playing.
That is
I
awesome.
Love it.
So yeah, like us playing into the backdrop of the Degrassi. I'm like,
Dreams come true.
Yes, sounds good.
I'm all for it. But yeah, once again, Wife Patrol, thank you for being on the show. And yeah, see you. So yeah, ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
you.